For many men, going bald means losing their confidence as well as their hair. Now, increasing numbers are opting to have a hair tattoo, a new non-surgical technique which gives the illusion of a shaved head. The procedure, called micro scalp pigmentation, works by drawing tiny particles of pigment on the scalp to resemble short hairs. Small dots of ink to replicate each hair follicle are tattooed on the head, giving the overall illusion of shaved stubble, with a visible hairline. This can disguise receding hairlines, bald patches, and scarring on the head. It is claimed hair tattoos are pain-free, with most clients describing a light tingling sensation in the scalp. The procedure, called micro scalp pigmentation, works by placing tiny particles of pigment in the scalp to resemble short hairs. The micro scalp pigmentation takes between 2 to 5 hours depending on the extent of the bald or thinning area, and most people have 2 to 3 sessions. The procedure costs around £2,000 to £3,000, cheaper than hair transplant surgery, which usually costs £7,000. A hair transplant is a surgical technique where individual hair follicles are taken from a donor site, usually the back of the head, and implanted into the balding part of the body. Micro scalp pigmentation is less invasive, in that it does not require surgery, and can help men who do not have any hair follicles to move. It can be used by men with male pattern baldness, or hair loss conditions such as alopecia. It can also be used to cover scarring on the head or alongside a hair transplant to maximize the effect. Male pattern baldness, the most common type of hair loss, affects around half of all men by 50 years of age. It usually starts around the late 20s or by their late 30s. It is hereditary, and is thought to be caused by oversensitive hair follicles, linked to having too much of a certain male hormone. It can also affect women, usually those who have gone through the menopause, and tends to cause hair to thin at the top of the head. Scott McGaugh, from Scotland, who works in fashion retail, started going bald when he was just 20. He said there was pressure from his job to look good, so going bald felt like the worst thing that had ever happened to him. He said, "From around 19 or 20, I became very aware of the bald patches developing around my crown and the back of my head. I hated people standing behind me. They probably didn't notice or even care, but I still felt very self-conscious. I've always been confident, but as the hair loss got worse, it did start having an impact on me. I used to use hair fibers which you shake onto your head to cover up bald patches, but it was tedious and the stuff would get everywhere. I wanted a more permanent solution.